Hey, I'm Nerdchomp, and I've been secretly working on a new game. This video is sponsored by Blue Ocean Games. If you have a cool game idea, or a game that's currently in development, Blue Ocean Games is holding a game trailer competition that could result in up to $300,000 in funding for your game. Stick around till the end of the video to learn more. Now I know you've all been waiting eagerly for more updates on Imago, but I've been secretly working on a new game called Break the Maze. Break the Maze is a top-down shooter with no enemies. The only enemy is the maze itself. Race against the clock to break the maze, reach the end, earn money, and strengthen your arsenal to break more mazes. While working on Imago for my level generator, I ended up using maze algorithms to generate levels that were always completable. I made a whole devlog about the topic, and even included a secret screenshot of this game. And after diving deep down into a maze rabbit hole, an idea sparked in my head. What if instead of navigating through mazes, you just smash through the walls? This idea kept popping up in my head while I worked on Imago, and eventually I decided it was worth exploring. I really want to keep this game small, so I opted for a simplistic art style and top-down gameplay to restrict my scope. I mocked up a short proof of concept and showed it to a couple friends. It was just a guy going through a short maze, dropping an explosive, and the walls exploding. They all thought the exploding walls were visually cool, and that the core mechanic was a great hook. This positive feedback told me this idea was worth expanding on. So how can I make this idea more interesting? There are a few ways. The first is what I'm calling maze modifiers. Some levels will assign a modifier to the maze itself, making it harder and more dynamic. Things like rotating maze walls, or turning off the lights, or the walls regrowing after you destroy them. There are lots of fun ways to mix up a standard run through a maze, and I've only scratched the surface. Another way to spice things up is to add a variety of weapons. Currently I have 4 types of guns, 2 types of explosives, a melee weapon, and 1 special category weapon. I plan on adding many more weapons to this growing list. They will all have different rarities based on their strength, and each weapon will have its own unique properties that the player can upgrade. Destroying maze walls will earn you money, and then you can use that money to, say, improve bullet penetration on the sniper, or increase the explosion radius on a grenade. I want the player to feel a sense of progression, building their arsenal and growing stronger so that they can face larger and larger mazes. This gameplay loop, paired with randomly generated mazes and upgrading weapons, fits perfectly into the roguelike genre. So Break the Maze will be a roguelike. For the level selection screen, I thought about using a similar branching path template that I've been using for Imago, but so many different roguelikes use the same formula, the branching paths, and I wanted to do something different. Since this is a game about mazes, I thought, why not make the level select also a maze? There is an optimal path to reach the end of the maze, but there are cool, shiny, more powerful weapons and bonuses if you stray from that optimal path. Deviating from the path also allows you to play more levels, which results in you earning more money, which allows you to buy more things. So while it's tempting to just go straight for the end, there are incentives to not do that. Of course, now the optimal way of playing is to always choose the wrong path to gain as much money as possible and to become more powerful. So I need a way to balance that. I have an idea for how to fix this, but it hasn't been fully implemented yet. I plan on having a side meter that tracks how many levels you've played. As you play more levels, the meter goes up. At certain thresholds, the meter activates an event that makes all future levels more difficult. This creates a risk-reward dynamic. You want to build up money and collect shiny things off the beaten path, but you don't want to meander too long, as it will cause the game to get more difficult. I'm sure this will require a lot of balancing and tweaking, but in theory, it could work well. For the art style, like I said before, I want to keep things simple. I'm not a great artist, I can't draw well, my modeling skills are okay, but they could be better and I take a really long time to model anything. By keeping the style simple, I can focus more on gameplay and design, but I do still want it to look nice. With the style I'm choosing, I'm trying to evoke that classic maze like one you'd find on a cereal box or in a newspaper. While it looks 2D, I'm actually rendering everything in 3D and using a top-down orthographic camera. Having things in 3D lets me use certain lighting tricks. I added a directional light that shines down and at an angle, casting a subtle shadow from the walls and from the player. And for certain maze modifiers, I can leverage even more lighting tricks and add cool visual flair. One issue I ran into with my 3D approach for the walls was overlapping walls. I'm spawning walls on a grid, and some of them overlap. The overlap is necessary for some of the modifiers to work. With a fully black wall, the overlap isn't noticeable. But certain weapons will damage walls without actually fully breaking them, and when this happens, the color of the wall changes. And when two differently colored walls are overlapping, the issue becomes more apparent. Something called Z-fighting happens. Z-fighting is when two planes end up in the exact same position, and the engine can't decide which one to render. So they fight against each other and it results in a flickering effect. My initial solution to this was to add random height variation to the walls. That way the tops of the walls would be offset. The problem with randomizing things is that sometimes the height would still land in the same spot. It was unpredictable, and it would still happen every once in a while. There would also sometimes be a large jump in height between the walls, which isn't noticeable in an orthographic camera from the top-down view, but where it was noticeable was with the wall shadows. I needed to make the height differences reliably small enough so that it wasn't noticeable in the shadows. So my final solution was to vary the height of the walls based on the grid coordinate. As you move further to the right and up through the maze, the walls very subtly climb higher and higher. It's subtle enough that it doesn't affect the shadows, and it successfully eliminates the Z-fighting problem. For the broken wall particles, I initially made them just the same color as the wall, but when there were a lot of particles, it was very visually busy and a little difficult to identify open paths. So now I make the particles a washed out version of the wall color, so it blends a little more into the background. This works with not just black walls, but any other colored walls, because I plan on adding variation. For the music, I teamed up again with Madison James Smith, the same composer I worked with for Nectar, but the direction I gave him was much different than Nectar. For Break the Maze, I'm going for a high-energy John Wick in a nightclub vibe. He's already composed 2 tracks for me, including the one that's playing in the background right now, and they're both bangers. I'm excited to show off more of his music in a future devlog. Again, the plan is to keep the scope of this game small. I'm being pretty strict with that, because I have a goal to finish and release a game on Steam by the end of 2026. That won't happen with Nectar or Imago, but it could potentially happen with Break the Maze. So that's my goal for now. Goals sometimes shift, so we'll see how that goes, but that is the current plan. And don't worry, I'm not abandoning Imago. This new idea has been a blast to develop, and I'm excited to see where I can take it. If you have your own cool idea for a game that you want to make or that you're currently making, you might be interested in the Rising Tide Challenge run by Blue Ocean Games. Blue Ocean Games is an organization that believes in passionate developers. They're dedicated to helping indie developers get funding to fuel their projects and ideas. If you have an innovative game idea but you don't have the proper funding to work on it, Blue Ocean Games might be able to help you. They are currently hosting the Rising Tide Challenge. The Rising Tide Challenge is a competition where developers can submit a concept trailer for the games they're working on. Winners are chosen from both a public vote and from a panel of judges. If you're one of the winners, you'll have a chance to pitch for up to $300,000 in funding, which you'll be able to use to develop your game. Go to blueoceangames.com to submit your game trailer and to join the event Discord server. The deadline for submissions is September 22nd, 2025. But if you're watching this video after the deadline, make sure to also check into the website for future competitions. This is already the second one they've run, and they have more planned for the future. Thanks again to Blue Ocean Games for sponsoring this video.